Hi, good morning. I just woke up and I have a lot to tell you guys. We attended an ayahuasca retreat about 2 months ago, and I told myself after the retreat that I need some time to process everything that happened before I recount it to other people. And it took a little too long. I absorbed it all, and at this point, it's been 2 months and I remember it for the most part, but tomorrow we're going back again. So there's no way I'll ever be able to tell it to you guys after this weekend. So this is my last chance to tell the world of my experience. I'm also gonna be really passionate in my storytelling so that I can put you there in the moment of exactly what I was feeling and what I was going through. A week or two after the ceremony, I started writing it down, and I took a break halfway through and of course never finished. So it's 2 nights, and the first night was very intense, not as intense as the second night. The second night was probably one of the most profound experiences of my life. So I can go ahead and maybe read from what I have written from the first night, because that is closest to my memory. The second night is gonna have to be all from my head. Okay, so let's just start here. So day 1, they explained to us the difference between a tayeta and a shaman. A shaman is self-proclaimed, so this means that they felt called to administer the medicine. Maybe the medicine called them to this calling. A tayeta, however, is chosen between 6 and 7 years old out of all the other children by the elders of the tribe. And our tayeta, was chosen at 6 years old by his grandfather, his uncle, and all the elders to be a tayeta. So from 6 years old, he started to drink ayahuasca. And from 6 to 16, he trained with his grandfather and his uncle and the elders while they taught him how to be a tayeta. He drank with them for 10 years, from 6 to 16, learning how to do this. And then ever since he was 16 years old, he's been a tayeta, and he's been doing this for 25 years now. So going into the experience, hearing that, like, it made us way more confident. It astounded us that he's been doing this since 6 years old, you know. So that's very important. The first day we arrive at our host's house. Their house is a beautiful backyard. Their home has many random rooms, all with wooden floors and no furniture, which gives us plenty of room for the 16 of us to lay our mats out, set up our water, our buckets, and our paper towels. We prepared our spots and then patiently awaited for the ceremony to begin. Justin and I, along with one other person, had never drank before, so we had to go first. Once everyone drank their cup, we all received chacruna. Chacruna is a powder, I believe, in the tobacco family. Tayeta used a pipe to blow the powder up our nostrils. The chacruna burned the upper nose, similar to being underwater upside down. It's kind of painful, but beautiful. It makes you cry. I could feel the energy of the chacruna in my head and the energy of the aya in the pit of my stomach. I felt them yearning to join at my heart. Once they did, the purging began. Once they joined, I started puking. It felt really good to get it out. After I got most of the purging out of the way, I laid down and I snuggled under my blanket. The visuals began. They were very light and simple at first, but then they got more and more vibrant, more intricate. Even when it was the most intricate and vibrant colors and designs that I've ever seen, it got even more and more vibrant and intricate than that. They were a gradual onset of visuals very similar to DMT and psilocybin. As these visuals were coming on, I was getting very uncomfortable. at one point, the orchestrator of the visuals stopped and looked at me. She was out of breath from the show that she was putting on. She said, "What's up with you? This is absolutely beautiful. I'm putting on a show for you and you're scared." Like, what? Then they snapped and she said, "You know what? You know why you're scared? I figured it out. You have PTSD from DMT." She put her hands on her hips about it. She was pretty surprised. I'm gonna have issues telling the story like so vibrantly while reading off the page, but I know that the page has my full memory, so I want to keep to what this page says. But I remember her looking at me like literally, she's like, "Do you not see all this? Like, look how gorgeous this is, and what are you doing being scared?" And that's when she was like, "You know what it is?" She's like, "You got PTSD from DMT." And I remember sitting there like, what? Like, wow, how could I have PTSD from that? Like, every single time that I've done it was the most like beautiful, life-changing experiences. Like, they changed my life. Like, those are beautiful, beautiful experiences that made me appreciate my life 110-fold than I ever could have with doing anything else or just by living, you know. So I looked at her rather confused. Hold on. Oh, okay. So then she explained to me, or it dawned to me, that DMT is one chemical compound out of the hundreds of chemical compounds that are contained within ayahuasca. And by extracting the one DMT chemical from the mimosa, we are giving people a fraction of the experience. I began to feel really guilty about it. There's many people who we've advised to do DMT based on its life-changing experiences, and I felt guilty that I was giving them one piece when it's like this is what you're supposed to experience, and we just took like the fun part out of it, you know, like the crazy visuals or the crazy, you know, and we just like took that one little part out of it just so you can feel that for 15 minutes when the ayahuasca lasts six hours, and it walks you through it and explains what's going on and everything. And I really felt guilty about that I was doing a compound without the context, you know, without the full context and explanation. Here's what the paper shows. So this DMT is this quick 15-minute wow DMT visuals with no context, no process. The Aya is clearly a journey that can be made sense with a full experience. I will come back to this topic as I discussed it with Tayesta the next day. So once I learned this lesson about DMT, I released an area of tension in my neck, and then I purged. I started to stretch my neck more, feeling more and more tension. I immediately received another lesson. It doesn't seem like it's that important, but apparently it does cause some stressful tension somewhere in my life. This lesson was that for holidays and birthdays, I no longer am going to get friends and family presents, except for my toddler or small children in my family. Instead, when I see something that I know so-and-so would like, I will buy or make it for them right there and give it to them right away. Back at home, I have gifts hidden in a closet, awaiting 10 months from now to be a Christmas present. For what? So my ego can be satisfied that I'm the best gift giver ever for that holiday? No, screw that. My friends and family deserve to have and use these items as soon as possible. And instead, if anyone wants to see me for their birthday or a holiday, I will be there to spend quality time and memories with them. And it's funny because, you know, you learn really important lessons during these experiences, and of course your soul goes back to old habits. And I will say 2 months later that's one that I haven't geared from all the way. I definitely want to still get people presents for their holidays or birthdays, but maybe I'm so creative now that like it'll always be handmade. I'm never gonna let it like stress me out. And then if there is something in a store that I see that I really want for someone, I'm going to give it to them right away. So that's the end of my paper, and there's a lot more to tell. So good thing I'm doing this video. So after I learned that lesson about the holidays, I started to purge more. It literally felt like It literally felt like I would learn a lesson, then purge it out, then learn a lesson, then purge it out. Like I would like feel the tension of the lesson coming, like surfacing, you know, like this uncomfortability. And then I would be like, what is that tension? And then I would understand, oh, there's a lesson. And I would understand the lesson involved in it. And then I would purge it, and then the tension would be gone. And it seemed like a easy process I could follow. Like, okay, tension, lesson, purge. Like, I can keep doing this. Like, where's my next lessons, you know? So then I remember this clearly. It's starting, oh, come back to me now. I remember a lot of tension building up and me being confused, like, okay, I feel this tension surfacing, and the last 2 times tension surfaced, it was a clear lesson that presented itself to me. And this time I'm feeling all this tension, but I don't feel the lesson. Like, what am I supposed to learn here? Like, where's the lesson I'm supposed to receive from this tension? So I started thinking about it, and I was like, maybe it wasn't mine to carry. Maybe this is tension from another lifetime, and she was supposed to learn a lesson in this lifetime, and she never learned it, so she never released the tension. So I still got it here, and I gotta learn it now. So I started thinking about that and thinking about who that is, and my brain couldn't step away from this woman in a field. It seemed very like Scotland, Ireland, somewhere like that, in like the rolling hills. She was wearing like that, you know, that peasant outfit, you know, with like the tannish skirt that's really long, and like they look really hot because they're wearing so much clothes, you know. She was wearing something like that, which, looking at it now, like, it looks so beautiful because of our aesthetics and everything, but that was just like the common clothes back then, you know, and of a peasant. And I remember she had this giant field. It was their farm. They had this tiny little like cabin like thing, and the more I started to focus on her and believe that this was me in my last life, then the more it laid itself out, the more in depth I saw. I saw her home. I saw the inside. It was all made of wood. I could see, like, you know, there was no electricity. I could see like the flicker of the candlelight. It's like a very like warm like room, you know. She had a husband. The husband was like this like almost burly man, you know, but like for as burly as he was very quiet, you know. He was always gone for a lot of times. I don't know if it was war or hunting or what it was, but there were long periods of times where she was by herself or he was gone for like months at a time. And they had a son. I could see him in his little outfit too, playing on the floor with them next to the candlelight, and her being so happy watching him. And then when the husband would come home, he would sit on the couch or whatever he had then. He would sit and watch his son with like this slight smile on his face, you know, but he was always like quiet. And I kept coming back to this field that she was standing in, just staring off into the distance, sad, you know. And the reason she was so sad was because she kept trying to understand why her husband just wasn't like ultimately happy, you know, like when he's watching their son, you know, he's kind of like staring off past his son. Like he's not all there, you know. And she's wondering the whole time, like where is he? Like not where is he physically, but you know, she just wants her happy family. And she would stare off into the field, confused, like her whole life, you know, what can I, like, why, how can he be different? Like, why is he like this? Why we're so happy, we have everything. We have the farm, we have our son, we have our marriage, we have our home. It's just us in this big field, you know. And so why isn't he smiling all the time? Why doesn't he look me in the eyes all the time? Where is he at, you know? And then it all smacked me in the freaking face that I spent my whole freaking life standing in a freaking field, staring off in the distance, wondering what's wrong with my husband, instead of fully being there and fully loving him and fully like being everything he needs, you know. Like I just spent so much time like being confused about him instead of like 110% being what he needed, you know. And I know a lot of that had to do with the times. Like looking at it, there was not a lot of talking involved. I don't think women, maybe all of them, and maybe most people in general, I don't know where I was, like, but I just have a feeling that women in general didn't speak very much, you know. So maybe her opinions, and it wasn't like a evil thing, like you shall not talk. It's just more like I felt like, you know, a solemn piece that like anything I say is just not necessary. And that sounds so bad now, but that's just the natural thing then, you know. And I saw the son grow up, and I saw he had a wife, and they had a child as well. They had a baby, and they would visit sometimes, but for the most part they were off doing their own life. They, you know, him and his wife would come visit, and this was the end of my second night, my last lesson, or first night, I'm sorry. This is my last lesson from the first night. Sorry. Construction. Or not construction, my neighbor. But, it just, and then, you know, same for my life now, that sometimes I wonder, you know, what's wrong with my significant other, because he's not doing this or that, or feeling this or that, you know. And it was a huge smack in the face that a lot of it is me. Like, I mean, maybe he has his own things too, but that's not my business. That's not my, you know, that my thing that I need to address is I need to be there for him 100%. I need to fully love him. I can't just know that I love him and just expect him to know that I love him. That I need to, like, whatever that means, I need to fully be there for him, you know. So that was my first night. But the second night was even more insane than the first. So, okay, let me just get right into it, because I know I'm already almost 20 minutes into here. So the second night, we drink our first cup. Oh, by the way, first night, by the time I had the second lesson, that was my second cup. Like, he calls for a second cup, and then you go get more, and then that second, like, past life regression was after my second cup. But anyway, so second night, I take first cup, and this is a night that even the night of, it was difficult to remember. So I remember drinking the second cup. We received the shakuna. I felt them join again. Almost immediately I started purging. And so I was in like this living room part, and there was a wall behind me, and right behind the wall you can go around, and there's the kitchen. There was ceremony rules, which are you're not allowed to touch each other. So this comes into play with Justin when any time when I'm going through it, he has to leave me alone. They even say don't, like if someone's going through a crazy experience, don't talk to them. Like, allow Taya to do whatever needs to be done. And this even includes Justin, who is my closest, you know, he's mine, you know, he's my other half. But even if I'm going freaking bat balls crazy, like, he needs to stay out of it. So I go to the kitchen. For some reason I get this like delusion, I guess, that we're all just like in this house, just like experimenting this weird stuff and like not really knowing what we're doing. We're all just like doing crazy shit. I don't know. So like I start like looking at it afterwards. This is my soul exposing itself without any like any ego involved, without any like world experience involved. It's my pure soul that's speaking, which when your pure soul speaks, it's like you're not in control of it, and sometimes you don't even remember what you're saying, because it's not even it is you. It's 100% you, but it's not your, you know what I mean? Okay, so I started saying things like I was confused. Like I was saying, like, do I go outside? No. Okay, no. Do I drink some more water? Do I go in the bucket? Do I pick the bucket? And I was looking around, and I was looking at all the other people, and at this point, like we all just drank. Everyone's supposed to have individual experiences, but I'm like, unfortunately, I'm sorry to everyone, I was not in control. I like took over the whole show at this point. Like everyone, their eyes were on me, and I'm sorry, because they should have been, you know, going through their own experiences. And I was like standing up in the middle of the room in front of all of them, and I was looking to each one of them, and I was like looking them in the eyes, and I didn't realize this till later, but you're not, like Tayeta had told them, don't look at her in her eyes, don't talk to her. But I didn't know that. For me, like, oh, okay, I'm starting to remember. So I had basically gone so far, like my soul was like floating, you know, like I didn't know where I was. I was very confused, you know. I think I even forgot that we drank ayahuasca, you know. I was just like walking around this house with all these people that I was comfortable with, because they're the sweetest people in the world, and we had already gone through one night together and a whole day, and but I was looking all around at them all and like calling them by name, and like I was like, hey, like, you know, like each one by name, like, and like trying to get them to look me in the eyes, because for some reason when someone looks me in the eyes when I was in that state, it like brought me more grounded to earth, you know, which it made me feel more anchored. Like I was just floating, like I don't even know where I was, but when I would look someone in the eyes, it made me feel safe and like here on earth and grounded, you know. So I was trying so hard to do that, but of course they were told to not look me in the eyes and to not talk to me. And some of them were having such trouble doing that because I was so like in an innocent state that like I was just like begging for, like, you know, like just begging for a smile or for someone to talk to me, you know, and I would look at each one. I remember saying like I remember I'm gonna say like everyone's name is Bob, because I don't want to like show any names or like talk about anyone, you know. So okay, so I was like, hey Bob, you know, like how are you, you know? And then like, you know, look at me and like smile, you know, and then walk away, and I'm like, okay, like that was nice of him, but I'm not getting a whole like conversation out of him, so I'm gonna like go to this person, you know, and I'm like, hey Bob, like, you know, like you should smile more. And I remember like later on thinking that like I didn't actually mean smile more. I meant right there, like smile at me, like you're not smiling, and I need smile right now, please. And I was just kind of like walking all around and stuff. And then like I found my way back into the kitchen, and then this is when things started getting like the world was almost like in a fisheye, you know, like the fisheye lens, where I was here and the whole world is just out there. Like my whole world is in this circle right here, and that's all I know, that's all I can see, that's all I understand is this circle, and right here. So I went to the kitchen, and for some reason I was really craving, like I was starting to like breathe heavier. I was starting to like be you know, and like there was water in the sink, you know, and like of course I had water bottles, but the sink was just like never ending source of water, you know. So I went to the sink, and like I'm not in control at this point. Like I had to remember this later, you know. So I go to the sink and I turned it to the coldest, and I like stick my head underneath it, and I'm like, oh, water. And I stick my head back on there, water, and I start screaming. Water. I start screaming it at the top of my lungs, I need it colder. There's something in me that needs out. And I have my bucket on the floor, and it's just in the middle of the room and in the kitchen, and I just know, and I could see that, like, the other people around me, and I feel bad that I'm being so loud, but I can't control it. Bucket. And I'm looking up, and I say bucket. And, you know, I'd had an experience a couple months ago where, on psilocybin, where I, like, every time I tried to grasp a word, you know, like let's say, for example, bucket, I would think bucket, and the letters would just float away, and all my thoughts would float away. And I would try to remember things. I would try to be like earth, and then the letters would just float away, and I'd be like, no, and I'd try to be like money, and then the letters, and I couldn't grab onto any thoughts. But this was the opposite. This was bucket, water, bite, squeeze, yell, bucket, out. And I remember that's exactly how I sounded, just like that. I was screaming. It made me more confident to be able to label things for some reason, because well, not for some reason, I understand it. It's things were so crazy that if I, like, put a label to things, that it made me, you know, I guess, feel better. And this whole time I'm like, my face is in the bucket, and I'm starting, and I kind of like almost like black out at this point. People tell me later I was like demonically screaming into the bucket, you'll understand just by the words, demonically screaming. Yes. As I'm doing this, Tayeta decides to join me. And at first he was leaving me to my process. But it came to the point where I was like, if you looked at me from the outside, I looked like a crazy demon, like, in the kitchen, like, and in my mind, I need to, like, puke into this bucket, but instead, I'm screaming into the bucket, which is almost the same thing. Like, it's, as I'm screaming into it, it's almost as if I puked into it, like, and, so I'm back screaming in the bucket. I'm literally, like, screaming with all that's here, you know? Oh, I forgot a whole part of the story. Oh, snap. Okay, so sorry guys, I'm sorry. See, this is why I had to write it down, you know? Like, okay, so as I was drinking right when I drank my cup, I sit down, and this purging that I'm talking about, I, like, purged, I felt good, I got stuff out, purged, I felt good, I got stuff out. And then there was this in the pit of my stomach, this, like, gut-wrenching. And honestly, I felt this thing for, like, years now. I talk about it a lot. Like, I'll wake up in the morning and, like, almost see this, like, ball moving around in my stomach. And then I'm always like, maybe it's just gas, I don't know. But it happens so much that, like, it feels like such nausea, too. Like, every time I, like, push it in, you know? And I felt it. I was like, oh, my gosh, am I going to puke this thing up finally? I was so excited. I was like, and then I was, like, waiting for the purge to come, just because I just purged 2 times. I was waiting for the 3rd purge to come and to get this thing out, like, finally, you know? And then, like, the ayahuasca was telling me, like, this thing, like, you're gonna have to coax it out. Like, you know how many times you told this thing, it's time to come out, you know? And, like, it doesn't believe you. Like, you're gonna have to, like, force this thing out, you know? And so when it told me that, I was like, okay. So I, like, put my hand on my stomach, you know, and I, like, grabbed it, and I was, like, trying, like almost, like, battling it, you know, and I was, like, trying to move it, and, like, trying to move it, and, like, that, and, like, I was trying, and then all of a sudden, like, I, like, pushed, and then it, like, all went away, and I was like, oh, I didn't have to puke it, like, that's interesting. And then that's when all this started. Okay, so that's how all this started. I didn't just, like, puke and then everything happened. It was, like, something is deep down that is getting out of the way so that I can speak from my soul or something. So I'm screaming into the bucket. I'm screaming, get out! I would scream right now, but I have neighbors outside doing housework, so but I was screaming, get out, screaming into my bucket, screaming. And then I stood up, and Tayeta was there, and he like had this calm presence, you know, like he walked slowly, he stood up straight, he wasn't smiling, but he wasn't angry. He has this calm look on his face that when you looked at him, he looks so powerful, because as I'm floating like in this white world, he's anchored, he's down to earth, and so that means that like he is what's holding us all here. He is the force holding us in this dimension, which thank God. And so he like looks me in the eyes, and he said a few things to me. He said, he said, less speaky, more listen. And at this, he told me a few things. He told me that, and then I remember, like, I think I looked at him and I was like, water. And like he went, and I kept going to the sink and like drinking out of it, which is like not classy, you know. So he went to the sink and he like filled me a cup of water. He was calmly like going to the sink, and he was like filling it with water, and at this point he's like feeding my soul or my demon something, you know, and he knows that. And so he's filling it, and I'm like, colder. And I felt bad that I was like demanding him, you know, when he's filling my water, but no control, you know. So it's like, colder, more. And then like I drink the whole cup he gave me. Oh, it's starting to rain, guys. Hope it doesn't get too bad. Okay, so now I'm back in the bucket, screaming out. I'm screaming demonically, and then at one point I stand up and I scream. I say, Ayahuasca, and I scream this at the top of my lungs, Ayahuasca, and like everyone can hear it. Everyone knows the power of Ayahuasca, and I felt the power of the leopard coming through when I was screaming that. I could feel the spirit of the leopard speaking through my passion, and she was there ruthlessly but passionately and loving me, carrying me through this because it needed to happen. And so I start calming down a little bit, and then I get like confused again, and I'm like, and I almost am crazy, you know. I'm like, should I drink water? Like, I don't know what to do. Should I bucket? And then I was looking around, I'm like, look at, everyone has a bucket. Like, look at that. And I started like trying to be like more, you know, like confident, you know, and like trying, you know, and I'm like, should we go outside? And like looking at people like, and they're like, no, like almost trying to be playful, like, oh, everyone's so serious sitting around here, and I'm trying to be like a little more playful, like. And then I was like, should we? And then I like went next to the sink, and there were like knives and a knife holder, and I was like, oh no, like, oh my God. And I was like, see, like, and I told them like, I'm not that crazy. And it's starting to pour. You know what? Like fuck it, right? Okay. I'll just try to be quick. Under a tree. Because this is hard. Okay, that's not so bad, under the tree. Sweet. Okay. So at this point, I spent way too long taking over the whole show and having my whole experience be the only thing that is happening in the whole house. So at this point, they're like, she needs to like go in that room by herself. We need to isolate her. Like, she is like, at first we were giving her process, but like she's taking a long time. She's being loud, you know. Like, this isn't like a mean thing. This happens all the time. Like, sometimes you gotta like isolate them, throw them in the basement, let them like, you know, just let everyone else have their experience and let that person just like carry it out, you know. And I didn't even know this at the time. I was told all this later, like. And so next thing I know, they're like taking my air mattress and into this one room, and all the people, these poor people that were in that room, were like taking all their stuff, like taking it all out and everything, and just put me in there, and it was just me by myself. And at this point, I could see out the window. I could see there were people hanging out by the fire and everything, and I could hear like everything on the other side of the wall, like where everyone was still, you know, going through their ceremony and stuff on the other side of the wall. So basically the theme of my night is I didn't stop talking, like the whole time, is I just, you know, ever since that thing, just didn't shut up, you know. And which is funny because they say that like every, you know, it's your process, so like that just maybe my soul had a lot to say, and I need to start, like in my life, I need to start like really saying what I authentically want to be said, you know, and like speak, you know, everything that's on my mind and everything that needs to be said. So I go into the room, and I'm sitting on the mattress. Just all of a sudden I'm in the room. I know what happened, but it just happened so quick. I'm just sitting there by myself now. And for some reason, so I was under the delusion that like everyone has such wide memories that they can remember right now, not only all of their past life memories, but also they can remember through other people. Like I was like talking to them and saying like, remember when we went to Bisco? None of those people went to Bisco with us. Like, this part I said earlier when I was out in the living room. Like, remember when we went to Bisco, guys? Like, that was so much fun. You know, as if, you know, we're a full consciousness. We're spread, we're, like, if you really try hard, I bet they could remember Bisco. Even though they didn't go, like, I bet they could remember through the other person's memories. Like, that's where my head was at, you know? So, oh my gosh, this is really boring. Okay, I'm just gonna be quick. So I started talking like as if everyone could hear me. Like the people outside by the fire, I was like talking to them even though they're all the way outside. Like I thought that everyone could hear me. And I was like, guys, like we need more fireflies in our life. Like literally, we need more fireflies in the world, you know? And I just didn't stop talking to everyone. And Justin told me later that at this point he had gone to go get his second cup, and Tayeta had asked him, how is your wife, you know, and Justin told him, she's still talking in there. And they both like cracked up, and they're like, I don't know who she's talking to. But to me, I thought everyone could hear me, you know. So I after a while of being in that room, Justin came in and joined me, so it's just me and him. And I started to calm down. At this point, I became silent because I was like, wow, like I was starting to remember everything. I was starting to reflect everything. I was starting to like try one by one to remember all the words that I even said, all the things that I said. I was trying to have it all come back, you know, so I was silent for a little bit now. And at this point, Justin had just drank his second cup, so he was ready for his experience. And his experience I can lightly tell you because it's not my story to tell, but it is involved within mine. So I mean, at this point is when he had his profound experience. It's interesting how the ayahuasca allows it to be staggered so that everyone can have their full attention, not only with themselves but with Tayeta. And Justin pretty much like had an emotional roller coaster to himself over there. At first, I was there with him, but then I moved the air mattress and I stepped back and allowed him, same thing, I didn't touch him, I allowed him to have his space. And then slowly, like, I opened the door in case Tayeta, you know, would want to come in and do anything that needed to be done, which he did. Tayeta would sing over him, and at one point, you know, we weren't supposed to touch each other, but at one point Justin was like reaching his hand like this, and he didn't even realize it, and I didn't even realize it, and Tayeta walked in right there, and he put my hand in his. And then Justin can tell you about that experience, but from that moment when we touched, like, Justin had an insane experience. I'm getting soaked, and I'm about to go to my second ayahuasca retreat tomorrow. And this time, I'm going to tell you guys about it, like, the morning after, so I don't forget it all. And I'm going to go inside now. And thanks for listening. What I just told you is, like, a tiny fraction of what actually happened. So, thank you for listening. I know that was like 40 minutes, but I had to get that stuff out. And I'm going back in tomorrow. And wish me luck. And to all of you, like, hit me up if you want to do ayahuasca, because everyone should do it. Everyone. I love you guys.